Thank you very much, Tulio, and good afternoon, everyone. I would have loved to be in Switzerland to talk about data and libraries in person, but I really appreciate the effort of the organization to run this talk remotely. I was approached by Tulio about a year ago, and he asked me to do a similar talk to the one that I did at the Digital Curation Conference in Barcelona in 2018. And that talk had the title Blending Analytics and Curation. And in that talk, I don't know if any of you was there, but I was proposing 3 ways in which libraries could actually blend analytics and curation. And I was using examples of our data lab at Fundación Juan March to illustrate those. So what I've done this time, I've redesigned that talk for this occasion. I have updated the examples with the latest data activities that we've been running. And this time I've used Lewis Carroll's book, Alice in Wonderland, because I think it's a book that I love. And I think it's a great vehicle to tell you a story about libraries and data. So let's get on with it. This is the first page of the book, and really the book starts with Alice sitting next to her sister by the river, and she's feeling really bored. And then she sees the white rabbit with a watch in his hand saying, I'm late, I'm late, I'm late. And there's an important thing here, because Alice's curiosity leads her to follow the rabbit. And then she falls into the rabbit hole. And from then onwards, Alice negotiates her way through a chaotic world where there are distortions in space, time, and logic. A world full of unique characters, some of which I'll be using in this tale, in this talk. So this is exactly what I'd like you to do today. Follow me into that rabbit hole, and let's enter that chaotic world of data and see what libraries have to offer. These are the contents of today's talk. And firstly, we'll talk about that data wonderland, which is really the world in which we live today. And we're gonna try and understand what it is, how media describes it, and how science deals with it. And what's the role in libraries? How are libraries getting involved in this data wonderland? Immediately after that, I'll discuss 2 elements: digital curation and analytics, that will allow libraries to play a key role, an important role in that data wonderland. And I'll propose ways in which those 2 elements can be combined from a library standpoint. And finally, I'll present you the data lab of Fundación Juan March, which is a data science unit based at the library, where some of these principles that I've proposed before will be put into practice. And I'll show you through examples how we try and blend analytics and curation. So let's start with data wonderland and this idea of ubiquitous data and data science. I've chosen this illustration where Alice is sitting next to the caterpillar, and she's speaking out into that world of data, and the caterpillar is asking Alice, "Who are you?" and actually pointing her into where the magic mushroom is that will allow Alice to shrink and grow. But data wonderland, I'm referring to this data-centric world in which we live today. A world where data is being created at an ever faster pace, where data science is becoming the fork and knife to deal with these huge amounts of information, and a world in which academia is also, data has an important, central role, and research data, it's one of the elements that are usually discussed in library conferences. And I'll explain how libraries are engaging with data in different ways. So data are all around us, and every day we see the newspaper that present us many articles with graphs and data that helps us understand what's going on. We follow recently the US election with its results through maps and different visualizations. And we're also following the pandemic and how it's developing across the globe. And pretty much all newspapers have now a section on data about the pandemics. So media has adopted all these data, and initially they presented these concepts of data, big data, and data science, artificial intelligence from a very positive point of view as the panacea to solve problems and humanity's greatest challenge. But recently we've seen this also opposed to these all these great stories about data. We're hearing more about the perils of it, and we see how artificial intelligence algorithms can cause and create real harm. Or that book from Susanna Zuboff, The Age of Surveillance Capitalism, that raises many questions on the challenges posed by the digital future. And in particular, she's concerned about the powerful corporations and this concept that she calls the surveillance capitalism. Because we're talking about these tech giants that the economists portrayed really nicely in this front cover of January 2018. Because there are all these companies, the Googles, the Facebooks, the Amazon, are capturing and analyzing all these behavioral data of all the actions we take on the web, and then sell it to advertisers. At the same time, we see a lot more companies in all domains that are adopting data-driven or data-informed strategies in an attempt to perform better and to be more productive. In academia, we see an important presence of data science. It now drives many and diverse fields such as biology, astronomy, particle physics, material science, political science. And we see loads of research centers and institutes as well that are devoted to data science. Good two examples are, for instance, the Alan Turing Institute and the NYU Data Science Center. At the same time, we see a wide range of certifications and university courses that are appearing to train the next generation data scientists needed for industry, research, and education. But what is really data science? There's a real lack of consensus about how to define it. The term is rather vague and is normally used to refer to anything related to data, like data analysis, data management, machine learning. But I like these two definitions because they focus on the extraction of knowledge from data, learning from data, which is, I think, something really important in data science. But more than that, I like this other idea of data science being an umbrella term that actually brings together a truly interdisciplinary activity. And the Alan Turing Institute, which was launched in 2015 with its headquarters at the British Library, brought together many of the top UK universities to undertake research to solve some of the biggest challenges in science and society using data science methods. And they were talking about mathematics, artificial intelligence, computer science, ethics, statistics, software engineering, sociology. In all of these data landscape, in all these data wonderland, the libraries are also playing a role, and there's a tradition of libraries working with data and technology. From the social science data libraries originating back in the 1960s and working with secondary data in fields like political science and sociology, to the more technological aspects of digital preservation or digital scholarship. All the current agenda, the research data management agenda is also has a very special element of data. And there are also data laboratories like the ones at the British Library or the Library of Congress that are are appearing, and which try to make the library's data available to researchers in a different way, and to make a different use of all that data. And then there's also a very strong push at the academic level for ideas such as computational archival science. So there are many ways in which libraries are engaging with data and data science methods. And for instance, I'm sharing here the cover of a book where we've participated. This is a book from Facet and will be published next year. And it contains some chapters that will present case studies on tools and strategies for supporting the data-driven research and instruction. So that's the data landscape. That's the context in which this presentation takes place. But then let's talk about data curation and analytics. And I've chosen two funny characters of this Alice in Wonderland book, which are Tweedledee and Tweedledum. And these are two twins in Alice in Wonderland, and they're based on a traditional nursery rhyme. It's interesting because they complement each other's words while they speak. And over the years, they have become characters that are synonymous with two people competing. And something similar could be said of curation and analytics. They're competing activities, but they also complement each other. So data curation is an activity well known for libraries, and it's the process of looking after the data from the moment of creation and adding value to it. This diagram, which you probably recognize, is from the Digital Curation Center, and is the digital curation lifecycle. And on the other hand, analytics, they also have a kind of like a life cycle. This is a diagram from SAS Analytics, and it shows how analytics starts by identifying a business problem, preparing the data, exploring it, and making the models to analyze it and evaluating the results. So can we actually blend them together in libraries? How can we actually bring the best of both worlds? So this is my proposal today. 3 ways in which libraries should and could blend digital curation with analytics. The traditional activity of curation, which is normally undertaken in libraries, and this new area of analytics that can be also brought together. So the first way in which we can do it, we can embed analytics in curation actions. There's different analytics strategies that we can use that will help us enrich, normalize, and integrate our data sources. And we'll be seeing examples of all of these proposals. The second proposal to blend curation and analytics is applying analytics to understand our own data. And there's things that we can do, like conducting visual analytics on our data that improves our understanding of what it looks like. And it may help us identify errors and bias that will lead us to improve our data even more and curate it into another level. And finally, another action that can be taken is we can use analytics to support decision maker. So we have to capture and analyze relevant data and so that we can provide insights that support the process of decision making at different levels within our organization. Okay. So I'm gonna introduce to you the Fundación Juan March and the Fundación Juan March Data Lab, and this idea of promoting a data culture. Okay, and I'll be all those the 3 proposals on how to blend curation and analytics. I'm gonna try to show examples on the different projects that we have, so that you can see how we're doing these things. And for this section, I've chosen one of Alice's goodwill advisors, the dodo, and I like the dodo because in the book the dodo proposes that everyone runs a race, and the participants run in patterns of any shape, and they can start and leave off whenever they like, so that everyone wins. And I think that's something, libraries have a lot to win with data, and it doesn't matter what they do and how they go about it. I think it's one of those things where everyone wins if they start working with data. All right, so I'll just a bit of context about the Fundación Juan March, the organization where I work. Tulio has introduced it before. It's a non-profit organization devoted to the promotion of the arts, humanities, and science. It was founded back in 1955, and that building that you see there, it's the main headquarters in Madrid. And in that building, we run a variety of activities. There's exhibitions, music concerts, there's lectures in topics such as literature, politics, history, and so on. And all activities are for free, and pretty much there's something going on every day, you know. And so we have an audience that visits the building to attend these activities. At the same time, we have a library, research support center that is specialized in Spanish music, art, theater, and it has some really special collections. And in particular, there's one of the collections that is on books of magic, which is really cool. And really, the library is a place where researchers come to conduct their research. And for instance, for that special collection that I was telling you about the magic books, we have magicians coming to an area in the library where they can get all those books and practice their magic tricks. So it's a library full of life and full of interesting collections. And within that library, we have the data lab. And the data lab is a unit that conceptualizes the whole organization as a big data generator. You can imagine from all those activities that are taking place, the exhibitions, the concerts, the lectures, and all the library activities, there's a constant flow of data being created. There's recordings, audio recordings of all the lectures, video recordings, there's pictures being taken, all the exhibitions produced, art catalogs. So there's a wide range of materials that are being produced. And we somehow at the data lab conceptualize the organization as that big data generator. And our aim is to really promote a data culture within the foundation that facilitates that facilitates data-related activities. In particular, there's two areas of work. We engage in curation and analytics. In the curation side of things, we identify and document our data collections, preserving our digital heritage, and disseminating our information via research portals. At the analytics level, we try to learn from our data, and we apply different data science techniques to explore and visualize new perspectives. And I've got a picture there of my colleagues from the data lab. We have Paz Fernandez, who's the library director, and Guillermo Nagore, who's the director of brand communication and experience. And then we have a data engineer, Fernando Martinez, who is the person that makes all the technology possible. We have a data curator, Francisco Guerrero, which is the colleague that is able to clean massive amounts of data. And then there's me as the data scientist. All right, none of this work could take place without a technological infrastructure. And this is what our data engineer sets up and looks after, which is an infrastructure that helps us collect data from different sources of information, so that we have all in one particular place, so that we can exploit it. Okay, so in our vision of the foundation as a data generation, we have different sources of data. So we have, you can see at the bottom, you have all the operational databases, and that's where all the day-to-day operations of the departments are recorded. So whenever they organize an art exhibition or a lecture or a concert, they keep all the information about the event in those databases, and they have particular applications for that. And some of that data fits our website, some of that data becomes public. And then we also have specialized systems for digital preservation or archiving for our library archives. And then we also collect many other data from other sources, like we collect data from social media, our Twitter account, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and even we collect information about the weather or the calendar, so that we can use it for predictions. Okay, so you can see that these are all the different data systems that we have, but in the middle we have all the analytical heart. So we keep a copy of a lot of the data that is around that circle in that MongoDB storage, so that it's all stored there and it's available for our curatorial and analytical tools. And you can see on the other side of the slide the tools that some of the tools that we use. Some of them are specific for curation. So we have things like Fedora Commons, a repository, or Solar, or Islandora, OpenRefine to clean large amounts of data. But then on the analytical side, we use R. R is a programming language that we use at the Data Lab. And for that, we use things like RStudio Server, so that we can share our code and work on the cloud. We have Shiny to do visualizations. Jupyter notebooks we use to document our different analyses and to test different things. We use Google Data Studio for visualization, Git for versioning, and then there's a range of artificial intelligence services that we plug into to run different tasks that I'll be telling you more about. Okay. Okay, so now we can go through a few examples on how we actually embed, how we combine analytics and curation. Okay, to start with, how we embed analytics in curation actions. For instance, we can enhance our data using supervised methods. Okay, and I'm gonna tell you about an example that we're working on at the moment, but that we've had some experience in the past doing similar things. Okay, so it's not really done just yet, but we know more or less how to do it. Okay, so we've recently launched the Canal March, which is a portal where we have over 5,000 videos and audios that can be watched in a Netflix-like interface. And we've had my colleagues from the library tagging all these videos and audios using a thesaurus that we've built. You know, like for instance, you can see that that video from one of the concerts that we had, a little opera, and you see that it's been tagged with music, Spain, love, 20th century, etc. Okay, with that data, we can train a classifier. We know that different videos and audios have been tagged with particular keywords, and we can train a classifier so that whenever we get a new video or a new audio, we'll get predictions of possible tags that are fitted for enriching the information of that content. And for that, for instance, we could use something like the ML Studio from Azure, which is a service that it's on the cloud, where you can actually plug in the data that you have trained, and then build your model very easily, which is it's all through an interface. You don't have to code to do this. And the good thing about this is that once you create your model, you can very easily convert it into an API. So that means that any you could actually ask as an API that responds to any query. You could say, and you could integrate these into your systems to offer potential tags for new videos. And in that way, we enrich our data, and we can help the people responsible for having to tag all these elements. Another example is to embed analytics in curation actions. Has to do with normalizing data using authority disambiguation, for instance. One of the problems that we have, and I'm sure that anyone that is working with data here is faced it before, is that when you have many sources, sometimes there's no normalization, and that's really the case when you're working with names, with people's names. And you have an example here where you can see like two names that are very similar, but that probably have like one of them has a space, or they forgot a particular letter or something, and there's ways in which you can identify those elements and put potential candidates to be merged. And it's something, for instance, if you're familiar with OpenRefine, it's something that this application does really well. With OpenRefine, you can get data about with names, and you can easily, in a few clicks, you can identify potential candidates to be merged. They use different algorithms, like key collision or nearest neighbors algorithms, that are really clustering methods to actually, they convert that text into numbers, and they try to see, they represent them in space, and they can see which are closer together, and those that are closer together, they're potential candidates to be merged. So we used this type of normalization and authority disambiguation a lot, because we have to work with, as I was showing you before, with loads of different data sources. So it's important that we have ways to identify, not just for names, but for other things, things that are very similar, but that have been written in a slightly different way. And we use OpenRefine to do these things, but not only OpenRefine. We've converted these algorithms into R, so that we can actually use that whenever we want from our with our code, so we can embed it into different applications. We can also embed analytics in curation actions by enriching lectures recordings using AI services. And this is an example that is very nice, because we use different artificial intelligence services, what I call sometimes off-the-shelf AI, because there are all these big technology companies such as Microsoft, IBM, Google, Amazon. They have these services, AI services, that you can use, and that will help you perform different tasks. And for instance, in here, what we do is, whenever there's one of our lectures at the foundation, we record that lecture, so we get an audio file. That audio file can be transcribed using Google Cloud Platform. So we use R to get that file, and then you have to split it in different chunks, in smaller chunks, and you send it to the API of the Google Cloud Platform, and you get a transcription of the lecture. This is by no means perfect, but it gives you a good overview of what the lecture is about. Once we have that text of the lecture, sorry, we can send that text file to another AI service. In this case, we use a term extraction service IBM Watson, that will actually, from that long text, will identify authorities and the main keywords of that text. And with that, I mean, we sometimes do is when we get the results of all these things, we use network analysis to identify whether the results are good or bad, and to identify potential problems. I'll be sharing the slides, so all these URLs and links in here, you'll be able to visit and play around with them. Okay. Okay, so how can we apply analytics to understand our data? Okay, for these, one of the things that I'm always trying to promote is that we treat library data as proper data, and I'm referring to, in particular, to library catalogs. Library catalogs should be treated as data sets. And this is an example of it. This is something we did when we participated in one of these British Library Labs Awards some time ago. And what we did is the British Library shares the British National Bibliography, which is a catalog of all the books that have been published in the UK since the 1960s. And we got that data, we extracted that data from the British Library and visualize it using network science, so that we could see the relationships between authors, the main authors, subjects, and publishers. And for this, we use an R package called netcoin that allows the creation of interactive networks, and that I highly recommend you have a look at. This is something that we're working on as part of the PhD that I'm undertaking at the Department of Sociology at the University of Salamanca. And it's for those of you who use R or that are interested in actually applying network science to your data, this is something that makes it really, really easy, okay? And through just visualizing your data, you kind of understand better what's that data and what's in it. And again, I'm sharing there the links in case you want to have a look at it and play around with the data. Okay. Another way in which we can apply analytics to understand our data is this little game that we did of datifying an R catalog. Last year, we had an exhibition at the foundation on our art genealogies, and it was based on this art catalog by the first director of the MoMA Museum. And in this catalog, you can see that it's got a bit of a structure of how cubism and abstract art came to be and all the influences. So in itself, it seemed like it was like a data set, but not formatted, not organized in the way in which you can then reuse it. But it was interesting because it included many bios about the artists, describing the places where they were born, the places where they live, all the works. So we made the effort to extract all that data and structure it in a spreadsheet, so that we could do things like these things that I'm going to show you. We could then explore the different relationships in between the artists or the places where they live, or between the works of particular artists and the evolution of their styles. So for instance, in here, you can see on the left-hand side, you can see how all the different artists kind of around Paris, which was the center of that time in terms of art. Or you can see here different works from Pablo Picasso, and how some of them were part of analytical cubism, and some others were part of synthetic cubism. So in a way, it was a way to try and understand that art catalog as data, and it was just a little game where again we use network graphs and we use netcoin to prepare these network graphs. And finally, we can support decision-making using analytics in our organizations. And well, for instance, as part of the data lab, we've been preparing different types of predictions, and one of them is on attendance, because sometimes we need to decide whether we, apart from the bigger auditorium that we have, we need to decide whether to open a smaller one next to it to accommodate more people. And when you open that other auditorium, you need to also hire technicians that present the event in the smaller one. So so we needed to somehow predict the number of people that were going to attend these events, and we had a lot of data from previous years on how this was working, so we could use that data for predictions. We've also used run predictions to see the number of magazines we need to print so that we don't run out of them too quickly, or we don't overprint and they go to waste. We also usually do different visitor segmentation analyses. We have data from the bookings when they book to come to different events, or the books they pick at the library, the videos they watch, or even like the followers we have in our social media. And we can use these segmentation techniques to classify our users into groups and understand the groups of users that we have in more detail. Finally, also in this element of supporting decision making, one thing that we're doing in that attempt to promote a data culture within the organization, it's this idea of opening up access to data and data literacy. A couple of years ago, there were only dashboards with information about the different activities that were accessible only to particular departments. So the exhibitions department could actually look at this data. They couldn't look at the data from other departments. So something we've done is we've created a space in our intranet where we share all the dashboards that we do, and they're really open to staff, and they can monitor their activities, but also all the activities within the foundation. The idea is that making their data accessible and also helping them to use these tools will allow them to make use of these data and these dashboards, and they'll make sense of what's happening around them. So we've seen all these examples on activities that we have at the data lab, in which we merge the curation and the analytics. These examples are by no means complete, or some of the things are work in progress, but I think many of them are little tests to see whether we can create new things, whether we can do things in different ways. Some of them, there's an element on this data lab on innovation, on trying new things, trying new technology, and in many cases, some of the things that we try don't go too far. But it gives us an experience of the different tools and technologies available that maybe it won't be of use at this present time, but it will help us maybe in the future for other things. Okay, so just to finish off, I've chosen this illustration of Alice with the Cheshire cat. A character that is also very interesting because it explains Wonderland's madness to Alice. And in this conversation, Alice asks the Cheshire cat, which road do I take? and the cat says, where do you want to go? I'm a firm believer that libraries have a lot to bring to the data wonderland. And I'm a strong advocate for libraries to nurture that data curiosity, which I think will be of terribly useful for libraries to engage in this data wonderland. That's it. Thank you very much.